What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. TGIF. DK Show up on the air. Your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, Sports Talk app, and of course the video stream, which is up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Appreciate you making us a part of your starts on this Friday morning. What do we got on the good old game plan for us? Bucks can't get into the All-Star break on a positive note, falling to the depleted, and I mean depleted, Memphis Grizzlies last night, 113-110. Ugly. That's inexcusable loss for the Bucks last night heading into the All-Star break. Doc Rivers kind of even calling out his squad after the game, saying some guys were here, some guys were already in Cabo. So sure looks like with the Bucks remaining schedule after the All-Star break, third toughest in the league, third toughest schedule in the league. And considering where they're at right now, 3 seed, got Boston ahead of them and Cleveland's ahead of them. I don't think the Bucks are going to catch Boston for that 1 seed, but maybe the 2 seed. But they got one of the toughest schedules left in the league in this second half of the season, if that's what we're going to call it, even though it's not straight up 50-50, but it's going to be tough. And this Bucks team got to start to figure it out, start to figure things out here. So, but All-Star break this weekend, All-Star game this weekend, All-Star festivities start tonight. And then the Bucks will kick off the rest of the second half next Friday, a week from today, with that game against Minnesota. Then they have Philly right after that. Couple games against Charlotte. Then another West Coast trip then they got a quick stop at Chicago. Then another kind of a Western Conference run here with the Clippers and Warriors and Lakers and Clippers and Kings and Philadelphia and Phoenix and Boston. Ooh, that's going to be a tough stretch. That's the middle of March. Ooh, yikes. But at this point in time, which hoops team do you trust the most right now to go out there and get you a W? Is it the Badger basketball team? Is it the Bucks? I mean, right now, if we included Marquette, it might be Marquette for a lot of you out there. But which one do you trust the most right now? Both teams not playing their best basketball at this point in time. Speaking of the Badgers, they get a game against Iowa tomorrow, but a huge game tomorrow for Marquette. Number 4 Golden Eagles taking on the number 1 team in the country, defending champs, UConn Huskies. So got that on the docket for tomorrow. If you're a college hoops fan, you're going to be probably looking forward to that game. But Marquette has a chance to really kind of maybe solidify themselves as a 1 seed in the upcoming tournament. If they take down UConn and they finish off this season strong, could they be a 1 seed? I mean, I think right now at worst they'd be a 2. But huge game for Marquette. And they got another one against UConn later on. So, I mean, they really have. I mean, Marquette's got a really good shot here to maybe solidify themselves as that 1 seed when it gets to the tournaments. Because we look at Marquette's remaining schedule here, they're second in the Big East right now. They're 2.5 back from UConn. So, I mean, first of all, you'd have to sweep UConn here with tomorrow. Then they got UConn again. And that's going to be in Milwaukee on March 6th, their second to last game. But they got Xavier a couple times in here. They got Creighton, who's 17th in the country right now. So, I mean, they got even still 2.5 back in the Big East. They still need a little bit of help, but maybe a shot to get a 1 seed. They have it in front of them right now. No doubt about it. So, Huge game tomorrow. That one's going to be a lot of fun between Marquette and UConn. So we'll talk some hoops throughout the morning here. Both Bucks, Badgers, Iowa, and then Marquette taking on UConn. Speaking of hoops, we'll catch up on some of the local stuff with Brandon Berg for another local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance. But we'll hit that up about 8:05 this morning. Eau Claire Memorial boys clinching at least a share of the Big Rivers Conference, excuse me. So we know the girls basketball playoffs will start next week. So Brandon will break that down. Also, we had hockey last night. Eau Claire Memorial, Chi-High, Menominee, and Hudson all advancing. So again, Brandon will help us break all that down and take a look ahead of what's to come and do some recapping here for us too. No inside the training room this morning, so Brandon will be on a little bit earlier with us right just past 7 o'clock. We got Cream of the Crop coming up. Reminder, you could play with us. You could play along with us with the Cream of the Crop if you have any nominations or picks for Cream of the Crop. Let us know. Maybe it's Caitlin Clark who set the scoring record last night. Put up 49 points in the game last night, breaking the NCAA women's hoops scoring record. She broke it with a shot from the logo too, but 49 points. 49 points. She has a career 3,569. So maybe that's your pick. Also, we'll do the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight too when we talk to Brandon about some of the local stuff going on around here. We'll talk a little baseball as well with Brandon in here. Rob Manfred saying that he's going to step down as MLB commissioner in 2029. So that's still 5 years away. This is going to be his final term for MLB commissioner. But we'll go over some of the other stuff that he chatted about yesterday. A lot of fans and some players too upset about the new jerseys and such. So, I mean, I've seen them, and yeah, I can kind of see where people are comparing them to the cheap knockoffs and such. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll be honest with you. I didn't pay that much attention. So, but hey, we'll hit up some baseball chats coming up here as well. Plus, we got some stuff from Pat Murphy, Brewers manager. Still kind of weird to say Brewers manager Pat Murphy, just because of how long we've been accustomed to with Craig Counsell over there, right? So, all right, let's get things rolling here this morning. We'll talk some hoops to lead things off. All right, Bucks. I mean, you're a Bucks fan. How do you assess? Let's. I know it's not the first half. Okay, it's 65. Whatever. It's a little over halfway through. But since it's the break, how would you assess the first break? Okay, the first half of this Bucks season. It's been a whirlwind, man. I mean, it's probably I would think for a lot of people, maybe not hitting expectations, maybe a little bit more down than what you expected. They're still in the third spot in the Eastern Conference, but given the play and you got coaching changes and all that stuff, how would you assess the first half? How would you assess this Bucs season thus far heading into the All-Star break? If you want to throw a grade on that puppy, you could throw a grade on there too. And how concerned are you with the Bucs after the All-Star break, considering they have one of the tougher schedules? And how concerned are you about maybe not having a deep postseason run right now? What do you think? Give me your first half impressions for this Bucks squad. Okay. And like I said, if you want to grade it, go ahead and grade it. hit me up with a text at 715-830-1912. And maybe, and how would you assess the Damian Lillard Bucks era? Watching the game a little bit, listening and watching it too, but Hudson wanted to see a little bit of it before he went to bed last night. So Greg Anthony was on the call, and he made a comment about Damian's finally starting to look a little bit more comfortable in that Bucks uniform. And I'm like, dude, we're in almost middle of February right now. Better be comfortable in that Bucks uniform at this point in time. I mean, come on now. But how would you assess it? All right, think about it for a minute, and then hit me up with your grades or your progress reports or analysis, whatever you want to phrase it. However you want to phrase it. Happy Friday, everybody. Quick break, and we'll get things rolling here coming up in just a couple minutes. Sometimes you need just a little me time, and what makes your me time better is a great cup of coffee in a relaxing, cozy environment. That's exactly what you will get when you visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Why settle for that low quality for your me time when you can have a freshly roasted brew with many different flavor options located right in your own backyard? Hey, need a bite to eat during that me time too? Cabin Coffee has you covered as well with a menu filled with breakfast, lunch, and bakery items. Having a good cup of coffee just instantly puts us in a good mood. That is, if you get your coffee from Cabin Coffee. So take a little me time and visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona, located in the River Prairie area, and experience what quality coffee really is. Speaking of Cabin Coffee, Joe Grabowski, the former Badger offensive lineman, owner of Cabin Coffee, up on the latest episode of the Man Cave podcast that dropped yesterday. I had a little fun with him. We were talking a little bit about Super Bowl and talking a little bit about Travis Kelsey kind of barking at Andy Reid over there, and had a little fun with that. What would have happened if somebody did that to Barry Alvarez during his day as head coach? So go check it out on the latest episode of the Man Cave podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Toyson Ford and Hy-Vee. All right, so the quote unquote first half of this Bucks season is in the books. Okay. Again, we know it's not an even 50-50. It's like 65% through. But for argument's sake, for discussion's sake here, we're calling this the conclusion of the first half with the All-Star break here now here. Okay. So with this first half in the books, how would you assess this very, and maybe that's the other question we could put into this too, is like, how would you describe in one word, or maybe just in a couple of words, how would you describe this Bucks season so far? The first word that kind of came to my mind was like chaotic. Because you open up the season. I mean, you open up right before the season starts. You trade for Damian Lillard, which I think surprised a boatload of us. Like, there was probably a lot of us like, oh, that would be cool to have Damian Lillard, but it ain't going to happen. And it happened. It actually happened. And I think it just like, wow, okay, let's go. And I think it also even before that, with the new head coach and Adrian Griffin coming in, maybe surprised some, like, oh, okay, you're giving the job to a first time head coach. Okay, interesting. But some of the stuff that maybe the team needed to get better at, that was supposed to be his background, defense and kind of mentoring younger players. Like, okay. And then you get the Giannis extension after the Dame trade. Then I completely forgot, even like the offseason before that, you had Giannis saying, hey, I'm not signing an extension right now. It just doesn't make any sense. And I got to see if the team, is going to be committed. Then he does sign the extension. So, I mean, all that whirlwind before the season officially tipped off in October against Philadelphia at the end of October there. It's like, oh, okay, Giannis locked up. We got Dame. Let's go, baby. And you got a third place team right now in the Eastern Conference standings. I know technically second in division, but again, the NBA, I don't really pay attention to the divisions that much, if at all. But third seed, their coach fired. First year head coach fired. You bring in a guy who's been around forever, Doc Rivers. And the Doc Rivers era is not off to a great start. Win-loss record-wise, 3-7 right now? Just 10 games into it. Maybe seeing a little bit of a better defensive performance, but offensively now it's kind of like, okay, where's that high-scoring offense that we saw in the first few months of the season, first couple months of the season here? It's not very good complementary basketball right now. Yet, here they are sometimes I feel like we just like kind of make it sound like the Bucks are just this bad, awful team, and here they are, third in the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, is that even maybe for some that's a positive because they're not playing their best basketball. They're not even close to playing their best basketball, and they're kind of treading water right now at that third spot. And It's just one of those. It's like, okay, get through the regular season, get a decent seed in the postseason. Once you get in the postseason, that's when you kind of turn it on. That's when you get going. But I would say you want some momentum riding into the postseason. I mean, we've seen it a couple of years where the Bucks kind of go into the postseason and didn't feel like they were playing their best hoops or maybe not having a ton of momentum, and it saw an early exit for the Bucks at that point. So, I mean, you could go with it a bunch of different ways right now. I guess if I had to kind of put a grade on the first half, and I'm using air quotes, some of you can't tell, first half of this NBA season, I'd for the Bucks, I'm probably going like a C. Because part of it is, okay, they're still the third seed, okay. But there's been ups and downs, and then when you have to fire your coach, and it's just it hasn't been perfect. Some spots have been good, others have been blah. Last night was one of those blah when you're going up against a completely depleted Memphis team. And you got your guys playing, Giannis playing, Dame playing, Brook playing, and you can't win that game. Now I know, like, especially in the first quarter, first half, hey, Memphis, that's where sometimes it gets dangerous when you're going up against a team that doesn't have, nobody's expecting them to do anything. Bunch of young guys. I mean, you had a guy starting the game last night for Grizzlies who were on a 10-day contract. Sometimes those games get a little dangerous because you just got those young guys out there that are like, hey, we got nothing to lose. We're going to take advantage of our opportunity right now. We're going to go ball out. And give Memphis credit. They did that. I don't know if the Bucks overlooked them a little bit. I don't know if they just like, yeah, okay, we're going to take care of business of this one. Doc calling them out saying some guys were here, some were already in Cabo. Nonetheless, it's a bad loss. And we've seen it times before, right? We've seen it. I think it was at the game, was it with the Lakers? Was it Lakers Celtics or Lakers played somebody? And they didn't have Anthony Davis, they didn't have LeBron, and they just like put a butt whooping on him or something. So I mean, we see that, but still, it's still a bad loss for the Bucks, and we've seen instances of this before, and that's where it's just been so inconsistent for me. I'm going to C, and maybe for some that's a little too high because have higher expectations. So maybe they're at a D plus or something. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Been average. It's been average. And I hope after this break, and, maybe one downfall of this break here too is that Doc is coaching the Eastern Conference. Maybe for some, they would rather have it be another coach so he can maybe work with his assistants and try to figure something out and try to get everybody on the same page, use that extra time to work on the issues that's kind of plaguing the Bucks right now. But I mean, after the game Sunday, you still got a few days after that, and you got a couple days leading up to it. And really, you're not putting a whole lot of effort into coaching the All-Star game. Let's be real. You're just getting guys some minutes here and there. So, but that's definitely with this next half of the season coming up, the final half of the season. With the Bucks schedule, it's one of the toughest in the NBA. And I look at, I'm looking at it right now, and there's a stretch at the beginning of March, in the middle of March, where it's like, oof, okay, this is going to be tough. These are your games. Clippers, Warriors, who are playing better basketball right now. Lakers, you don't know what to expect. Clippers, Sacramento, Philly, Phoenix, Boston. That stretch right there is playoff teams. Lakers, I know, is the one kind of on the edge there, but that is a tough as nails stretch coming up beginning of March, in the middle of March. And it doesn't really get any easier right when you come back from the All-Star break, because you're on the road against Minnesota, and then right after that, you're on the road against Philly. And I know Philly with Joel Embiid, it's a little bit different there, but still. But that stretch in March, I know we got a few weeks away, maybe, a little less than a month away from that, but that is going to be brutal. And a lot of those games are going to be on the road. Of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, of those 8 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 are on the road. We know the Bucks are a much better team at home. Boston is on the road. Clippers is a home and on the road. Sacramento, road. Warriors, road. Lakers, road. But this is where I want to see now as we get into this second half. Got to start to come together here. Got to start to figure out the complementary basketball part of this. Okay, you're getting a little bit better defensively, but what's going on offensively now? It's all got to mesh. And I know Doc and his staff are trying to, incorporate what they want to do into, slowly bringing it in. You can't just completely, stop it and that. And I realize there's probably growing pains with this thing. But now you got to get it going. You've got to get that momentum. You've got to start playing as a cohesive group. This team is way too talented to not be a contender for the NBA title this year. But I think if you ask a lot of people, they may not be picking the Bucks to maybe even go to the Eastern Conference Finals at this point. And that's inexcusable for a team of this talent level. I mean, last night you had Giannis double-double, but it wasn't a typical double-double for him in points and rebounds. It was points and assists. 35 points and 12 dimes. 12 assists. Just 4 rebounds for Giannis, though. Dame, 24 points, 7 assists. After that, it was Bobby Portis coming off the bench with 15. Brook just 14. I mean, the Bucks struggled big time from 3. 25%. Memphis, meanwhile, shot 50% from 3. They shot 53% overall from the field. You had G.G. Jackson coming off the bench for Memphis and putting up 27 points. Bench production outside of Bobby Portis for the Bucks last night, 9 total. That's it. So this is what I want to see in the second half. I want to see this team starting to come together, starting to figure it all out and putting it all together. Putting it all together. I don't know if Gallinari is going to be coming over and he's going to be a big difference maker. He had options with other teams, it sounds like. Was it the Knicks or was it 76ers? I mean, playoff teams were interested in him. He comes over. He's familiar with Doc. He's a career 15.2 points per game, 4.7 rebounds. Last couple years, hasn't been those numbers, been below. But how much of a, force is he going to be? Difference maker is he going to be coming to this team? I think he's going to get some minutes coming off the bench. I think he's going to take minutes away from maybe guys who aren't producing because of Doc Rivers' familiarity with him. But how big of a difference maker will it be? It remains to be seen. But this team's got to start to figure it out here in the second half and start to put everything together. I'm willing to, the 10 games under Doc, give it a little bit of time till they all kind of mesh here, get on the same page here. But that now, you got to get her going here. Got to take care of business. And as far as, the one question kind of thrown out there to have a little fun with is which team do you trust the most right now to go win you a ball game? Badger basketball or Bucks basketball? That's a toss-up for me at this point in time. I hate to cop out on it, but that's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't know who the heck to trust at this point in time. I have no idea who I'm gonna be trusting. So as we head into the break, here's your standings currently in the association. Boston holding a 6-game lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are in second. Milwaukee's 8.5 back from Boston, 2.5 back from Cleveland. The Knicks, 4 seed, a whopping 10 games back from Boston. Philadelphia's your 5, Indiana's your 6, and for the last 4 in, who would be in that play-in, got Miami at the 7, Orlando at the 8, Chicago at the 9, Atlanta at 10. Western Conference, a little bit different here. This Eastern Conference and this Western Conference is giving me flashbacks to just not that long ago where it seemed like the bottom teams in the Eastern Conference were where you had teams that were below 500 making the postseason here. And it's kind of that way if we add in, the last 2 teams, the 9 and the 10s here in the Eastern Conference. But Western Conference, every top 10 teams all have winning records. Minnesota holding on to that 1 spot. OKC, 1.5 back. Clippers, 2. Denver, 3. Phoenix, 6 back. Pelicans, 6 back. That's your top 6. So your top 6, this 6 team is just 6 games back from first place compared to the Eastern Conference where your 6th seed is 12.5 games back. Dallas, Sacramento, Lakers, Golden States, all rounding out for the top 10 there. That's where things stand at this point in time. So yeah, you look at that again, that schedule coming up here, beginning in March for the Bucks. You want to know why they have one of the toughest ones? Is because of that stretch of Clippers, Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, Sacramento, Philly, Phoenix, Boston, all playoff teams right now. And then, you got a game against Brooklyn in there, and then you got OKC right after that, Lakers again. And New Orleans. New Orleans is a playoff team. I mean, for crying out loud, we take a look at this. Minnesota's a playoff team. Philadelphia's a playoff team. Charlotte's not. Chicago is. Clippers are. Okay, so see if I can do this on the fly. 1, Charlotte. Chicago is. Brooklyn's not, but they're not that far out from that final spot. Holy moly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. Of the Bucks remaining, if my math is correct, looking at this schedule up here in the studio, the remaining games for the Bucks, only 5 teams right now are not playoff teams. The rest are all playoff teams. They got Charlotte a couple times, not a playoff team. They've got Brooklyn, not a playoff team. They've got Toronto, not a playoff team. Memphis again, and Washington. Everybody else is playoff teams. Holy moly. All right, let's take a quick break. Closing up the first hour here. Your thoughts, we'll get to them. Hit us up with a text, 715-830-1912. It's the truckload seafood sale going on now through President's Day on Monday at Hy-Vee. You're talking about some heck, heck of a deal going on in a. I'm looking at the flyer right now, and if tell you what, if you go to the Man Cave podcast, our segments with What Up Hy-Vee, talk quite a bit about this. You can learn a little bit more over there with Phil and Lance. But I mean, you got 2 for $4 ahi tuna. You got $9.99 a pound for Alaska snow crabs. You've got shrimp all over the place here. Salmon for crying out loud, a big 12-ounce salmon for $3.99. Scallops. I mean, it's all catfish nuggets. Wife and I are going to be hitting up Hy-Vee later on today. You got crab cakes and football. That's what you know what. So you could also sell a 5-pound box for $25. That's it. So check out the flyer up at Hy-Vee's Facebook page over there and take advantage of their truckload seafood sale. 4 days only, starting today, going through Monday. Otherwise, you can listen to more details too, again, on our What Up with Hy-Vee segment on the Man Cave podcast, which is up right now for you to take a listen to. Going through some of the grades that some of you have texted on over. Quite a few C's. Do have a couple of B minuses on there. I'm not going to go through everybody's names on here just because a lot of you just texted over letter grades. So I would say the majority right now is about a C, C minus with the Bucks at this point in time. No D's. So it looks like the lowest one that we've got so far is at a C minus, but do have a couple B minuses over there for this Bucks team. So we'll get back to some more Bucks chat coming up a little bit later on. If college hoops is more of your thing, got quite the docket for tomorrow. A little bit more of a local sense here, but looking at tomorrow's games, Marquette, number 4 in the country, taking on number 1 UConn. Top 2 teams in the top 4 going at it. That's going to be a heck of a matchup between those two. And Marquette has a shot to maybe kind of solidify themselves, perhaps as a 1 seed when it gets to the tournament. Now, Marquette and UConn, they face each other twice yet, tomorrow and then later on in the season. So, a lot to be decided yet in that. UConn right now is 2.5 up on Marquette in the Big East regular season conference standings here, but Marquette has a shot to put themselves in that conversation as a potential 1 seed for the tournament. Right now they're at worst a 2, I would have to imagine. And then you got Wisconsin visiting Iowa. Wisconsin finally ending that 4-game losing streak. Their tip time against Iowa tomorrow at 1:15. 6 more games left to go here in the regular season for this Badger basketball team. And when you look at it right now in the Big Ten conference standings, Wisconsin is 3 back from Purdue. Purdue getting a victory last night against Minnesota, although Minnesota for the first part of that game making it tough on Purdue. But nonetheless, Purdue did come away with the victory. But Wisconsin's 3 back. They're a half game back from Illinois, who's currently in that 2nd seed for the Big Ten Conference. But, you look at these final 6 here for Wisconsin: Iowa, Maryland, Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers, Purdue. Straight up split, 3 on the road, 3 at the Kohl Center for the Badgers. But those last 3, you're looking at it: Illinois at home, revenge game against Rutgers at home, and then you finish off the season at Purdue. Tough stretch for the Badgers. Maybe a little bit of a tougher stretch when you throw in the Rutgers game there than what we kind of maybe thought a week and a half ago, a couple weeks ago at this point in time. But hopefully, that little 4-game, whatever we want to call it, that the Badgers were going through, hopefully rear view mirror, and that was just a blip on the radar here, and they can kind of figure things out and get that momentum back. Ride that momentum. Finish strong in these last 6 games. Head into that Big Ten Conference tournament, playing some good hoops. Make a deep run in the Big Ten Conference tournament. Get back up into those standings. Right now, when we look at bracketology, let's take a look at ESPN's bracketology. Joe Lenardi. Okay, this was updated. It was a couple days ago here, so it's a little bit older. But right now, I mean, they've got your 1 seed still Purdue, UConn, Arizona, Houston over there. Marquette is a 2 seed currently. They got Green Bay as a 15 seed taking on Kansas. But Wisconsin 4. That's Joe Lenardi. I'd like to see them maybe move up a spot and get into that 3 over there. How about CBS? What's Jerry Palm got for his bracketology? See if we can get the full on over here. So Palm CBS Sports. He's got the same 1 seeds, which is no big surprise here. But he's got Marquette's still a 2. Where's Wisconsin? Ooh, here's your difference. He's got Wisconsin as a 6. Wisconsin as a 6. Ooh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to see Wisconsin now start to kind of put it all together and ride a little momentum as they get closer to the tournament here. So big day in college hoops tomorrow. And I mean a little locally here too, because of Blue Gold men's basketball team, final regular season game at Zorn Arena. Talking about Blue Golds, talking about Stouts, their regular season starting to wrap up as well. So if you want to catch another game at Zorn Arena, gonna have to do it tomorrow. And then I mean you want to potentially, I mean another big day too, because you got Blue Gold women's hockey taking on number 1 River Falls. And that's coming off of a overtime loss to River Falls just a week or so ago. So Blue Gold women's, I mean, this is a big opportunity for him here too, or for them to pick up a huge win to improve their playoff chance, or maybe kind of even solidify their postseason chances here. So, but basketball wise, if you want to check out the Blue Golds in action, they got lacrosse at Zorn tomorrow, 5 p.m. All right, so we got a few minutes left. Coming up next hour, no Inside the Trading Room, no Dr. Crow today, unavailable today. So we'll just get to Brandon a little bit earlier here, but we'll catch up with Brandon, talk some baseball with him. Rob Manfred calling it, calling a career in 5 years. He says he will retire in 2029. So still got a few more years of the Rob Manfred era in Major League Baseball. But we'll talk some baseball, Brandon. Pitchers and catchers have reported. A lot of the position players already reporting for the Brew Crew and such. But we'll catch up on some of the stuff that's coming out of training or spring training right now. We'll get back to some hoops talk with B. We got a cream of the crop. Who is your cream of the crop? A couple of you already chiming in with it being Caitlin Clark, who set the scoring record last night, women's college hoops, putting up 49 points. 49 points in her effort last night. But that couple of you have already picking that one, which is a solid one, no doubt about it. And then we'll catch up with a little local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliances. We'll get to that about 8:05, and then Brandon will unveil the Carpet City Floorings at our local spotlights. We'll call winner recognition over there too. So a couple more grades coming in for this Bucks quote-unquote first half of the season. Dave saying, I'm riding with a C. It's been average at best. So many ups and downs, and then a new head coach coming in here. Hopefully, when we're talking about the end of the season, it will jump up to an A and another championship. We got Greg chiming in saying that he's going with a B minus, maybe a little bit higher than a lot of people would grade them. but I thought they would go through a lot of growing pains this year. I think with the coaching change, that got set back a little bit more, so they get a little bit of a grace period there for me. But definitely in the second half, they've got to start to put it all together and be a more consistent team. G-Man a little bit earlier saying Bucks will be just fine. I trust the Badgers. They had their slump. Now Bucky will win games when they play their next game. We got Steve. He's going with a C for the Bucks. Kind of like what you mentioned, average at best so far this year. This team is too talented to kind of have the up and down season that they've had. I know changing a coach probably threw a wrench into the whole equation here, but hopefully they all start to get on the same page after this All-Star break. All right, keep your comments coming about the Bucks. We're looking for kind of your first half grades. Again, I know it's not exactly first half, but with it being the All-Star break, how would you grade? How would you assess from what you've seen with the Milwaukee Bucks? And if you could describe this Bucks season thus far in one word or maybe a couple of words, what would they be? I use the word chaotic just because it's kind of been all over the place. To me, it's kind of been chaotic. But what word or maybe a couple words would you use to describe this rather interesting Bucks season thus far? Maybe that's another word. Interesting. So many. I mean, it's before the season, all the stuff coming out, Dame trade, got a new coach, Giannis extension, excitement, and then coach getting fired, maybe not playing up to the expectations, still a 3 seed. It's been kind of all over the place. How would you describe it? Okay, we'll get to some of your picks coming up a little bit later on. Also got another question, kind of the day, but I'll hold it off until just past 7 o'clock here because the shot clock's going to cut me off here. But I'm curious to get some of your picks with this next question I've got for you. It's kind of encompassing all of sports. Okay, it's not just going to be basketball related or anything like that. So I'll hold off on it because we do have the Daytona. Anybody? Is that like appointment viewing for anybody when it comes to Daytona 500? Maybe you're not a regular NASCAR fan, but you watch the Daytona because it's the Daytona. That's something like that's appointment viewing for you just because it is what it is. It's the Daytona. Yay or nay? So you can let me know on that too. All right. Okay, shot clock's going to cut me off here. So we'll get to Brandon right away. Coming up just past 7 o'clock again. No inside the training room for us this morning. So we're going to jump into some baseball talk right away here with pitchers and catchers reporting. We've got some comments from Rob Manfred yesterday, his presser, talking about his retirement, talking about New Jerseys and all that stuff. We'll even get to some Pat Murphy comments. He chatted a little bit with the local media yesterday. Anything of note? We'll hit that up. One in. We got a couple more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicking off on this Friday morning of February 16th. Appreciate you all tuning in. However, wherever you may be tuning in from. No inside the training room for us this morning. We'll catch up with Dr. Crow next week. Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, which means you all get the treat of an early version of Brandon Berg.
Do not take medical advice from me.
Are you sure about that?
I might just tell you to rub some dirt on it. That's
okay.
Probably not advised.
Maybe some people need that though too. So I'm just saying. So look at you and I. We the same right now.
Kind of.
You got your Brewer swag on. I got my Brewers hoodie on. We're ready for the season, bro. Yeah, getting that way. So, let's talk some baseball this hour. Rob Manfred retiring 5 years.
I was gonna say
yeah. 2029.
Don't delay the fun part.
Right. So you got that. Also, everybody's complaining about the new jerseys out there, saying they look like the cheap knockoffs, which fans should be excited about. That means you can get away with wearing cheap knockoff jerseys, I would think.
Well, this suddenly opened up or reopened up the however you got them, because that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of when that was, about 10 years-ish ago.
Maybe a little bit longer.
Maybe a little longer. Yeah, I know it is a little longer, but everyone seemed to have the hookup.
Yeah, they did, right?
And you mean you're right. It was one of those things you could tell, but I think people were willing to do that because it was, you were getting a very good deal on it. Fanatics, not so much.
Yes,
they are. They're having some problems. I think if you want, you can find there are on various social medias there are certain accounts dedicated to Fanatics and how they are messing things up.
Right.
I ordered this, I got this, and I got this, and it's part this and part this, that kind of stuff. It's not good. It's not what you're looking for when, so many of these sports leagues, like, that's your official provider of swag.
Well, is Rob Manfred, now he has made some interesting comments over the years as commissioner, kind of downplaying the World Series trophy famously. What do you say, like the hunk of metal or something?
A piece of tin or something like that.
Yeah. Did you hear what he said about testing these jerseys?
No.
This was his quote. The jerseys are different. They're designed to be performance wear as opposed to what's been traditionally worn. So they are going to be different, but they have been tested more extensively than any jersey in any sport. The feedback from the All-Star game last year where the jerseys were worn was uniformly positive from the players. So I think after people wear them a little bit, they're going to be really popular. I'd be really curious to know what kind of testing was done,
right,
more than any other jersey in any sport. Like, dude, do you realize
that just sounds like something somebody made up?
Yeah, this is a guy who was a lawyer in his previous life or previous career, whatever we want to say. But it's like, you hear that, I'm like, okay, is this like, I instantly think of like Tommy Boy when they're running through Zelensky Auto and they're doing all the testing.
You can put a guarantee on the box.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, what kind of testing do you do through this thing? I mean, for crying out loud. And the other thing I'm thinking of with this whole jersey debate is Costanza.
Oh, the cotton jerseys.
The cotton jerseys.
From Seinfeld, for the Yankees.
Yeah. Switching over from polyester to cotton, and then it's the shrinkage, and all that stuff. I'm like, God Lord. There's just sometimes this guy says some stuff that's like, you might want to run that by somebody first.
Right.
But
sometimes workshop some of these thoughts you have.
Mm-hmm, right. What do you make of this this notion with owners pushing for a free agent signing period? Did you see this?
I did.
A little bit. So reading a little bit here from the mothership, with several top free agents still unsigned, Manfred said that owners would prefer a free agent signing period similar to other sports in order to expedite the process. Manfred saying, we actually made proposals to that effect to the Players Association. They were not warmly received. With the system we have right now, one of the tactics that's available to player reps is to stretch out the negotiation in the belief they're going to get a better deal. That's part of the system right now. There's not a lot we can do about it. Certainly, from an aspirational perspective, we'd rather have 2 weeks of flurried activity in December, preferably around the winter meetings where you're all there to write about it. So essentially he's saying like the NFL free agency period, right? That's what he's getting at.
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Now I know Boris already. I
Oh,
mean, when
I can imagine.
he came out, was like, "Oh no, 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 no! You know, that's nope, that ain't happening," and such. As a fan, would you like to see this?
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, because again, something people say about baseball's off season, it's boring
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know. Like
Right.
even this year, the Brewers made their big moves within the last 3 weeks,
Yep.
as opposed to in the NFL, you have like those 3 days
Right.
where 95% of free agents are signed, and then some people slip through the cracks, and there's kind of that second wave.
Yeah, I
But
was just gonna say there's that second wave everybody talks about, but yeah.
that's a little bit different too, because in baseball and basketball too is similar.
Yep.
But with those sports, you also have the draft right after.
Mm-hmm.
And in those sports, usually your draft picks are making an immediate impact. So like it's structured a little bit different just fundamentally. So
Right.
I don't know if it can be the exact same, because it's, I mean, you and I love the NFL draft, but it's always,
Yes.
hey, it's March.
Yep.
Here's a couple weeks where, we're going to see a bunch of signings, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, then you kind of digest that, and then it's,
It's spaced out.
early. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL does it on purpose. The NFL wants to dominate every news cycle. They do not want a time of the year where people aren't talking about the NFL.
Exactly.
And that happens in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've gotten used to it, and part of me does like the fact that any day, you never know, it could be some random Tuesday afternoon, or
Mm-hmm.
some Thursday night where I'm out covering something, and suddenly I get a text from you saying, well, I know what we're going to talk about tomorrow, and that's because Corbin Burns got traded.
Right.
And that was the first I'd heard about it. So, but I can understand that. But at the same time, I also understand on the players and agent side how they might not, because, I mean, let's be real, that's, probably that's going to lose some of their negotiation leverage.
Right.
Because a big reason, so many high profile people are still out there is because they haven't quite got the deals they want. If they got the money they wanted, they would have signed already.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like baseball, when it comes to Major League and the Players Association, so many different factors have gone so far down the road where you can't like change it. Like salary cap's never happening. That's never going to happen in baseball. I feel like a lot of the stuff when it comes to baseball, they've let stuff go for so long that you just can't.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right. Exactly. Is that the sense you get with
Yeah.
with a lot of this stuff?
Yep, I would agree. I mean, yeah, there won't be a salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to think of some other examples of things baseball does differently.
Right.
But you're right. Like there's just certain things that, you can't come back from that. I mean, that's the type of thing where if one side tried to go for it, that would lead to another labor dispute, which who knows, still might happen.
Right.
It's when that time comes again. I mean, we're not that far removed from 2021 when we had that. And
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the Baseball Players Association's got the most sway than any other pro players association at this point?
Could
Or is
be.
it just because of the relationship between the two is the most
I think it's the most
decisive,
maybe that's a better way to
divisive?
put it. It's the
Yeah.
most contentious. Like
Yeah.
I think the NFL, both sides right now realize, hey, we've got a really good thing going.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the past, Aaron Rodgers and others have kind of spoke up when they've come to agreements that maybe weren't, the best for the players.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think both sides understood, like, we got a good thing going. We know if there's a labor stoppage, we're going to chop into, our
Right.
fan base. And
Yep.
the same with the NBA.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, the NHL doesn't care. Gary Bettman's had multiple lockouts under his watch, and he doesn't really seem to care. So
Right. And it just you don't, and this isn't a knock on them, but you don't really hear a whole lot about issues, it seems like, with hockey too much anymore, right? I mean,
no,
they've changed a lot though
they
too.
have,
So
they have.
it's
And honestly, for people that don't follow it, like I think NHL might be, in some ways, it's some of the easier to follow as far as like their contracts and stuff, because of the four sports, they make the least amount.
right.
Like your top end players are still making, $10 or $11 million a year.
Right.
Their contracts tend to be, hey, this person signed for 4 years, $30 million. It's 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, or it's, escalates, but it's, it's easier to follow with that.
Right.
And you have smaller markets that do have the opportunity to kind of keep their teams a little bit easier than maybe baseball does. And I'm saying it's not possible. I mean, look what the Royals just did with Bobby Witt Jr.
Right.
So I'm not going to, stump for the owners of smaller market teams, say, well, they can never keep their players. Well, there's ways. It's just maybe a little tougher, and sometimes owners aren't as willing to as maybe they should be.
Right. Exactly. So, uh, I'm sure. The part when I saw that he was retiring, then it's like 5 years from now. But because the owners vote or hire the commissioner, right?
I believe so.
It's like the NFL. That's because the commissioner works for the owners, sort of thing.
That's something always important to remember when it comes to labor disputes and stuff like that.
Yep. The commissioner is the one that takes all the heat for the owners,
Pretty
essentially.
much. He's the fall guy for them, and they pay him handsomely for the privilege.
Right. Yep. I know he was mentioned. I know we got a few years yet, but I know he was mentioned before Manfred got hired. But Mark Anastasio, maybe potential commissioner. Again, another Brewers owner going over there. Maybe some Brewers fans want that so they'd get a new owner. I don't know, but
remember last time that happened with Bud Selig, there was a period where that wasn't great because that's when the team really was operating strictly to make a profit.
Right.
So, yeah, and that'll be kind of a big thing you hear over the next 5 years is like, who are some of the faces? I mean, I'd already heard like Theo Epstein.
Yeah, I heard that's a big one.
If you don't know, was a GM for the Red Sox, GM for the Cubs when they ended their long streak, and some of them just
Red Sox
been involved in baseball in a variety of fashions. Bit of a younger guy, but a guy that people feel kind of has his finger on the pulse of what's going on a little bit.
If it is Theo, what would you make of that move? Do you think that would be a solid one just because of he's been around
It'd be different
in different aspects of Major League Baseball too, because he also, when he was done with the Cubs, I think he was with MLB for a little bit, like a consulting role.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting because it's somebody that's not coming from the the corporate, the lawyer world that Rob Manfred is, where obviously he kind of looks at things a certain way, sometimes to his detriment. Whereas, at least there with Epstein, you could make the case that he understands more on the baseball side of things,
right? Yeah,
because he's run multiple organizations.
Trying to see if somebody's got a list of potential candidates out there right now, but I'll have to look it up because I'm sure that's good. We got years before.
Yeah,
we can do
unfortunately, and people know listen for any length of time, know my opinion of Rob Manfred. We got
there's time. I know.
There's time.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Brewers wise, though, we got pitchers and catchers who are at camp. It sounds like a lot of the position players are there too.
Yeah, usually that happens where guys will get there early.
Yep.
Most of them will because, I mean, if it's like 3 days before you're supposed to report, guys will probably be like, well, might as well just get there. Get the process going, get underway, because baseball is such a slow ramp up. That's more so for pitchers, but it matters for hitters too. So you get there and you get going.
Did you by chance happen to see, we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but the MLB art about the teams with sneaky great offseason moves?
I did. Actually, I think I read it last night.
Okay, and the Brewers were listed on there.
They were.
What were your thoughts? I mean, as fans, you're for this offseason, but these are baseball's kind of painting a maybe a little bit brighter picture on the Brewers and maybe what some fans have of their own team. What was your first impression, or what were your thoughts going through when you were reading some of the quotes from these nameless executives out there?
I think it goes to show how far the Brewers organization in general has come, where they're going to get the benefit of the doubt in some of these cases. And I agree with some of the things that were said in that piece, as far as, Rhys Hoskins, if he's healthy, can make a big difference because, the last few years, first base has really struggled. I think if you kind of went down the list, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you looked at the production that the Brewers got out of certain positions, even last year, offensively, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised, but you could understand how it could be, very similar to last year as far as the success, despite not being a bunch of high-end moves, because, no offense, but the bar was probably pretty low at certain offensive positions. At first base, it was bad. At DH, it was bad. At second base, offensively, it was bad. So if you're looking at the combination of, Rhys Hoskins at first, DH right now, a group of people all kind of getting some time there. Second base, if you're thinking about maybe Bryce Terang just making improvement from his rookie year, or Joey Ortiz, or, whoever ends up playing there, more so, I think you can make that case. I know the pitching end is, it's going to be tough. Like, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, tough to replace. But a couple things to consider with that. Number one, last year, Brandon Woodruff didn't pitch a ton of the regular season. He was only pitched like 49 innings or something. That's like right, that because he was hurt for much of the middle of the year. So, well, Brandon Woodruff was great. Like, he didn't really pitch a ton last year, so you're not trying to necessarily replace 200 innings from Brandon Woodruff. It's 45 innings from him and the 150 or whatever else you cobbled together from other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I found really interesting in the immediate aftermath of the Corbin's Burns deal is kind of looking back on this team, and I think people look at 2018 as kind of the the flashpoint of like, okay, that was obviously that was the Brewers' best shot to get back to the World Series. They're a game away. Well, that team was not exactly known for a starting rotation.
Right.
Remember, the guy that pitched the most, made the most starts was Ulysses Chassin.
Yeah.
That team went into the playoffs with Chassin, Wade Miley, and kind of spare parts.
Right.
Freddie Peralta had started some, but
was Gio Gonzalez on that team?
Gio Gonzalez was on that team. Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff were coming out of the bullpen, and Woodruff was doing a little long relief, but
right.
This actually surprised me, but do you know who started the second most games that year for the Brewers?
Second most games.
Second most games.
I'm gonna know it too if I don't guess it right. I'm gonna know.
Yeah, you will. I mean, it was one that I didn't. When I saw it, I didn't think of it. I'm like, I guess. I mean, yeah, that makes sense, but
it's wrong. It's not Matt Garza.
No. Matt Garza was
trying to think of, he was gone.
But it's. I mean, you're kind of on the right path as far as guys from that group.
Really?
I believe it was his last year there. Chase Anderson.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I think Chase Anderson and Junior Guerra were the next two.
Junior Guerra. Yeah, you're right.
That team won because it had an amazing bullpen, kind of like a Frankenstein monster of a bullpen.
Well, they had Jeffries Hader coming in like seventh.
Yeah, they acquired Joaquim Soria, who I think was really underrated for that stretch. Corey Knebel,
yep.
Who kind of had his struggles but figured it out down the stretch. And they kind of, used a little bit of kind of bubblegum and tape to put up that rotation, especially down the stretch.
It was like if you got a lead and you were going into the 6 or 7.
And that was kind of the idea. Like, find a way to get like 5.5 good innings out of your starter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's going to, for something like that, that's obviously going to require better offense because that team was good on offense. You had Christian Yelich was the MVP. You had Mike Moustakas acquired in trade. Travis Shaw was really good. Lorenzo Cain had an MVP caliber year. Jesus Aguilar was an all-star.
Yep.
But it's one of those things where I don't think you necessarily have to, kind of squint too hard to see how it could work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you need some things to go right. But anytime a team in any sport has a successful year, it's because they get some breaks. Like, make no mistake about it. That year in 2018, the team's catchers were Manny Pena and Eric Kratz, who, I mean, I really like Manny Pena. I really like what Eric Kratz did that year, but those aren't exactly guys that, overall are in the same category as a William Contreras.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's just, I think that you can talk yourself into it a little bit, even if you're not super enthused about the offseason. At the very least, to say, okay, well, you know what? We'll see. And I know last week you compared to the Packers this year. We just didn't know because there were so many younger guys. But you come out of the year knowing, hey, we feel pretty good about the quarterback. We feel pretty good about some different spots. Like, looking at the way the team is currently constructed right now, you're going to have younger players at second base, be it Bryce Terang, Andrew Monasterio, whoever, Joey Ortiz,
yeah.
Third base, Tyler Black, Joey Ortiz, 2 outfield spots with that, whoever emerges from that group of Frelick, Mitchell, Weimer, Churio, you have to figure if he doesn't start with the team, it won't, the major league team, it won't be too long.
Right.
And these are all people that were kind of ranked pretty high. It's not like you're kind of crossing your fingers that, oh, maybe this young guy can figure it out. Like, these are people that have had success in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
And, Terang really struggled offensively, but, last year, but, you see what happens. Same with Weimer, but you see what happens when you give them a second offseason. I mean, that happens with certain people.
Right.
Sometimes it takes them a little bit of time to kind of figure it out.
The one name that they mentioned in the article, just a quick line, but a guy that we haven't really talked about, and maybe he doesn't have a role right away, Jake Bauers. Is that, I mean, he's a first base option over there, but is he more like, okay, AAA and then maybe potential?
Well, I don't think he has any options left, so I don't think he can, which that was a move that, I mean, especially earlier on, I think Brewers fans were kind of confused about because Bauers is a former, pretty highly touted prospect, but just hasn't quite figured it out in the majors. I mean, he's kind of traveled around a little bit, but he's also somebody that I think the Brewers really like his kind of advanced numbers because he hits the ball. He does a lot of the things that like analytical people like. He hits the ball hard, he hits the ball in the air, that kind of stuff. It's just they're kind of thinking, well, let's take a look at him because he's a guy that I haven't seen very many people talking about, but like he's a guy that could, play first base a fair amount if, you have Hoskins DH a fair amount, but
Mm-hmm.
left-handed bat that's got some power,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not necessarily a
Everyday
guarantee. Yeah,
starting,
well, like a guarantee to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he comes into spring training and struggles, the team might decide to cut him loose.
Is it kind of weird too, the Gary Sanchez thing? All of a
A
sudden's
little
like
bit. I mean,
pause now.
yeah, there hasn't. It's kind of been radio silent on that, and there's different reasons people have kind of
Mm-hmm.
speculated, but I think it was Robert Murray said right now he doesn't have any reason to expect it won't get done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just maybe it's he broke his wrist at the end of last year. Maybe it's something with that, or the Brewers would have to, if they signed him, he would be on their 40-man roster. And right now it's full, so maybe there was some speculation too. Well, maybe they're working on a trade or something that would free a spot up. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few people I think you could just as easily just designate for assignment. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's just been odd that it was there and then suddenly like there's been nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So
All right. Good stuff there, B. Appreciate that. Let's take a quick break here, and we'll be back with more. Talk some hoops and such. Quick break. A couple minutes. We'll be right back. Does your team need to make a statement on and off the field, whether you're managing a sports team or a business team? Resonance Branding Company knows that looking good matters. For custom apparel, banners and signage, online merchandise stores, printed products, and much more, Resonance Branding Company is your one-stop shop. High-quality decoration, affordable products, quick turnaround time, and top-notch customer service. Resonance Branding Company is here to help your brand resonate with your audience. Check them out at resonancebranding.com or visit their shop in Altoona today. The official swag sponsor of the program over there now too. So swag it up. Brandon, we've got Daytona 500 coming up.
Yes.
If I ask you this question, taking away the big four, just in general, baseball, football, and I'm encompassing college football into it.
Okay, yeah.
Basketball and hockey. What's the next sport that maybe you watch the most or pay attention to the most, would you say? And is the Daytona something that is like appointment viewing for you, like Kentucky Derby?
Yes.
Sort of thing.
It is.
Is it Daytona is for
It
you?
is.
Okay.
It's odd because obviously NASCAR is different in that it starts the year with its biggest event.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of weird. Normally, you obviously kind of have that build up to the end, but no, it's one of those things. And I'll be the first to admit I'm not nearly as big of a NASCAR fan as I was in my younger days, but it's still something like I've just come to the conclusion like I'm always going to have a general interest in it, just because I have a lot of interest and respect in the sport itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just there's a lot of moving parts that go into it that I've always found really interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, otherwise, I would say golf is certainly up there, especially when you're factoring, the majors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
As we know, there's a bit more buzz for when it's the Masters. I mean,
Yep.
that's obviously the big one,
especially if T-Dub's in there.
right?
Yeah. Which I probably can't call him anymore since he said that logo's gone. So,
Yeah.
I know your mom chimed in about the logo. Brandon's mom, I'm not buying that logo.
Yeah.
I don't like it yet. I don't like it.
You have to grow on you.
Yeah, we talked about it on Wednesday. I would have. I know some people probably would have said he was copying his buddy. I would have gone with a fist pump shadow logo, like Jordan's Jumpman sort of thing.
Yeah.
But and the other thing that bothers me is the 15 stripes signifies his championships. What if he wins another one? And they say they're gonna have to redo it. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No. So.
And you say you got the 15 stripe one, and that was only around for a year or whatever. But
yep. No, thank you. So, but I won't say no to one if somebody like gifted one, like Veronica got me one or something. So, anyways, sorry, but
yeah, I mean, golf I think would definitely be in there. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but those are the ones.
You got tennis, do major championships on there a little bit. Olympics, would you put Olympics in that?
It depends. I mean, we've been lucky, like, in recent years that we've had some local connections there, and that always helps. Like,
right,
if you're looking for a reason to watch the Summer Olympics, Kenny Bednarik's running. Like, obviously, that's a big deal.
Yep.
So, but I still would go. For me personally, I think I would still go NASCAR just on a weekly basis. Like, there's certain times of the year, like I'll, with it being Sunday afternoon, generally I'm not working on Sundays. So if I'm not out, doing something, I might just, I'll watch a race, or I'll sit down, for a while. And, I don't necessarily do that as much for other things.
Right. Yeah. It's, I went through, I don't want to call it a phase, but there was a point in time when I was like in high school that I tried to, and it actually might have been a little bit after.
Well, the peak as far as NASCAR goes, viewership wise, I mean, you can say whatever you want as far as just with the sport itself. The peak viewership wise was 2005.
Honestly, that's probably kind of where
well,
maybe a little bit before that, but
because it really blew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've said for a long time, and now more than ever, especially as you learn more about him after the fact, was just how smart Dale Earnhardt was. I think a lot of people, when you think of Dale Earnhardt, you think of, quote unquote, this dumb redneck, but that's not the case. He was very, very smart when it came to like merchandising and branding and stuff like that. And him basically going to Jeff Gordon, who at the time was, the young hotshot clean cut guy, and saying, hey, look, like we can make some money off this. Like, even though they weren't right, like they didn't dislike each other. Like, let's try to play this up a little bit. And it did. I mean, that was the case in the 90s where you had,
oh gosh, I can remember people.
I mean, you were 85, 90% of people, you're either Earnhardt or Gordon.
Right.
And then that and look at any sport, those larger than life personalities lead to success for the whole sport. And that was the case when you got into the early 2000s. And then, that success continued even after Earnhardt died in 2001.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like I would not consider myself a NASCAR fan. I remember exactly finding out when Earnhardt died because of you knew who he was, even if you weren't a fan. He
Right.
was one of those sports figures that was just kind of almost larger than the sport itself.
Right.
And I still remember finding out, like how I found out in the day of finding that out, and it was, I think it was actually like maybe shortly after that, or maybe a couple years after that, because I tried to get into it. I tried to be like a Dale Jr.,
and that was
that
kind of the
guy.
thing. He kind of took the label, kind of the lead as far. I mean, he won the most popular driver award in the Cup Series so many times, and he kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was that perfect, hotshot young face that was good,
Right.
And he's driving the car sponsored by beer, and he's doing all these other things, and it worked, it clicked. Like you just when you see sports leagues that have success, there's just certain things that just like work.
And when it was on NBC,
and that was a big thing too, because up until 2000, you didn't have kind of like a uniform TV schedule, like you had for other sports. Actually, each track had a deal with a network. So that's why one week you'd see a race on CBS, and then the next week you'd be on ABC, and it was hard to keep track of.
Right.
But since 2001, it's been Fox for the first half, or pretty much the first half of the year, and then it was NBC, and then it changed to ESPN, and ABC had it for a while. Then it went back to NBC. So it's just easier to find.
When it was on NBC though, I think part of it was because they had the Metallica Fuel song as a theme song on there. So that's probably what drew me in there too. I love that song.
Yep.
The little guitar riff there towards the end. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anytime you put that in, that was smart too. That got me hooked there.
Yeah, at that time there was just doing
something about NBC and theme songs when it comes to their sports.
NBC Sports knows what they're doing when it comes to that. But yeah, because they had the rise, and 2005 was, as far as TV viewership goes, the most popular. And I mean, now they don't really do attendances for races, but you had places dwarfing anything you got that week out of like an NFL or a college football game, and you were 150. I mean, there was a point where you could make the case that the hottest ticket in sports was for the night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. There was a waiting list. I know, because my mom, like, I have an uncle that went to that race for many, or I think he went to the spring race, but like, you knew, like, if you wanted to go to this race, like, you had to get on a waiting list. And sometimes it took a while to get to the point where you could go.
Right.
Because it was such a popular race, because it was Bristol was a very short track, you had a lot of action, and it was built up like a coliseum. Like, they kept building seats there, and suddenly next thing you know, you've got 150, 160,000 around this little half-mile track. That's, in the sticks in Tennessee. Right. But it became incredibly popular there.
It's funny you mentioned the 05, because that's when Talladega Nights, the movie, came out too.
Yeah.
When the height of that peak.
Right. Right. I mean, then obviously Will Ferrell, they were able to kind of jump in at a good time.
Right.
And, I like Talladega Nights. Like, it's one of those, it's a movie that, like, it's funny, and in some ways it kind of, pokes fun at NASCAR, but not like in a bad way. Just like maybe some of the stereotypes some people have with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really highlights the stereotypes.
Yeah, more so the stereotypes. So, like, if you kind of understand that.
Like sponsorships and, the way they, talked or whatever.
Yeah, different,
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but, yeah, I remember going to the theater a lot. And when you said 2005, it was about 05.
Yeah.
On a date for that one.
How'd that go? Was it Veronica?
No.
Okay, well, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, I was trying to think of, like, okay, outside the top four, I feel like the other sports I kind of watch or pay attention to, it's so event oriented.
Yes. And
because even for golf, like, I love golf, but I'll tell you what, if there's a random tournament on that's not a major,
it's tough. Unless there's a couple bigger name players in it. Like,
if it's Tigers in contention at some non-major tournament, I'm probably watching that.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll be real, probably not.
Right.
So,
same.
But, after that, I'm trying to think. Olympics, and that's only every few years, so that's a little bit different. And that
I would like to be able to get into, like, the English Premier League, because I have friends that are.
I tried to get into it.
I don't know. I just like, and I've grown to appreciate soccer, as I've covered it with my job and stuff, and I appreciate how they do certain things with the league when it comes to, like, relegation, stuff like that, and how there's different levels to it. I like that. But I would just have to find like my in, like what's my in, what's my reason to do it.
Hmm. Hudson actually asked me a question. I want to see if I answered it the right way in your opinion. He asked me this last night. He's like, Dad, what sport's more popular, soccer or baseball? I said, world soccer, U.S. baseball.
I think that's correct, but I think soccer's making some good gains in this
I would
country.
agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
Worldwide, it's huge.
Yeah, oh
Right.
yeah, and I mean, you
Worldwide.
go pretty much
And
everywhere.
baseball is worldwide too, but
It is, but
it's
yeah, like you go to pretty much any other country,
mhm,
soccer or football, as it's called pretty much everywhere else, like
right,
that's the sport of choice.
right. Yeah. Otherwise, I was trying to think like there, and no, it's got to be event oriented for me. Certain ones I can't watch all. I'll tell you right now, like I'm not going to be, I won't be paying attention to the spring football league that much. I
I
mean, I'll catch it, I'll
yeah,
check
like
it out, but I'm
yeah,
not going to be like NFL
I would
die
I
hard.
would really like them to find a way to be able to like have each team send like 4 guys to it. Because then it's
Each
a
NFL team to send for,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
kind of like NFL Europe though.
yes,
Hmm.
exactly. And that I mean, we know how many good examples there are of that.
Hmm.
Kurt Warner,
Yep.
Mike Maslowski from Thorpe.
Yep.
He went and played over there and then ended up having a pretty solid career with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, there's a lot of people that helped.
Hmm.
Like, and I think
It's like
and
a feeder minor system
a
sort of
bit
thing,
like
you know?
you just and then when you have a connection, like,
Yep.
look, they're not gonna the Packers wouldn't send Jordan Love, but
Right, but maybe it's your practice squad
yeah,
guys,
or
you
some
know?
fringe roster guys that like we
Exactly.
want to get a little bit more of a look at this guy, and then
Mhm.
you hear, oh, this team has 2 Packers guys on it. Okay,
Yep.
you might want to take a look, especially if it's some fringe quarterback because everyone loves a backup quarterback.
Right. Because a lot of those times too, let's face it, those fringe guys, you may not know how good they may be decent, but a lot of it is name recognition too, let's be real.
Yeah,
So they may not get a shot. They may be lighting it up in practice and such,
yeah.
but
I agree. I would like to see
I
that,
think that's a great
even
idea.
if it was just 4 guys.
Mhm.
That's 4 times 32, 128
So it
guys.
almost maybe kinda like the NBA?
Yeah, a bit like with the G League.
Yeah. Because once in a while you'll have some of the Bucks guys go down there to the herd, whether it's just a practice or something, or but yeah, something, and then they call them up or something like
Yeah,
that. So,
but you're right. I mean, if it's a Saturday in April, and I'm just kind of flipping around. Oh, here's whatever this. Maybe I'll watch for like 5 minutes if there's any, see if there's any names I recognize. But
hmm the one sport I really wish I could have gotten involved or really into watching, and I think a lot of it could just be who's involved. Boxing.
yeah, like at the peak, like because
Hmm.
I remember like the tail end of what I would consider to be the boxing peak.
Hmm.
Like the later '90s, like
Tyson and Holyfield and that.
remembering
Yeah.
how big of a deal like the Tyson Holyfield's fights were, and even when he later on Tyson boxed Lennox Lewis. I mean the
Right.
was it Chasing Tyson? So 30 for 30. It's a
Yeah.
really good one. It talks
Hmm.
about how obviously they wanted Tyson Holyfield for like the early '90s. Then
Hmm.
Mike Tyson went to jail, so he couldn't have prison, so he couldn't have that. And like the roundabout path, they finally got the matchups they wanted, and it wasn't quite what they were
Hmm.
maybe hoping for just because of the controversy with it. But yeah, like there was a time where like boxing was like,
Yeah.
and because you had so many of these larger than life characters. And again, that's look at any of these sports. I mentioned with NASCAR, when you had these larger than life characters that you could gravitate towards.
Hmm.
Even now here, in this era, I'm talking about Tyson, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. Like,
Hmm.
you just, yeah, I would have loved to be able to get on board with that at some point.
I agree. I agree. All right, so we got to take a quick break here. Then we're going to close up the second half. We got cream of the crop coming up. We got cream of the crop coming up here, and then the local Carpet City Flooring Center local sports spotlight as well. We'll do a local sports roundup coming up just past 8 o'clock. Quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Starting next weekend, Backyard Dreams has partnered up with Mycon Cinemas to bring you Spring Kids Movies. 11 a.m. showtimes, just $3 admission. Also, just $2 for popcorn, $2 for soda. Starting next week, this is going to be at the Mycon Cinemas in the mall, Oakland Mall there. Little Giants, February 24th through the 25th. And portions of the proceeds going to help some local organizations as well. So you got Little Giants. The following week's going to be the OG original Bad News Bears. Kicking and Screaming the following week, Bingo, Feel the Dreams, and the OG again, original Space Jam to wrap it up. Yeah, it is. I got to turn your mic on. I switched mics around there. There we go. So
I said, what a lineup.
The annexation of Puerto Rico. You've got, I Believe I Can Fly, and If You Build It, They Will Come. I mean, all over the board there.
And some stuff that Buttermaker said that we can't really say on air.
I do appreciate it's the OG. No offense to Billy Bob Thornton.
No, but Waller Matthau is the way to go.
Yeah. Are you ready to do some cream of the crop now?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it up here. I'm gonna go with you because I'm curious if we're gonna have the same one. We'll see.
I would be very stunned if we're gonna have the same one. Okay. I feel very confident you're not gonna pick this one.
Okay.
My cream of the crop this week, I'm going with Jaromir Jagr. The Pittsburgh Penguins are retiring his number on Sunday.
I thought he was still playing somewhere.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still playing, I believe, with his hometown team in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
He's 52 years old.
That a boy.
Little perspective on Mr. Jagr, second all-time in points in NHL history to Wayne Gretzky. Joined the team in the Penguins in the early 90s, helped to win a couple Stanley Cups.
Mm-hmm.
Was traded away, I think, in 2001. But when he started in the NHL, he was the youngest player in the league. By the time he was done, he was the oldest player in the league. He played forever in the NHL before going back to Europe and playing there for a long time. And honestly, what might be my favorite Penguin of all time, just somewhere maybe
even over Mario Lemieux.
I like both, but yeah. I don't know. I think somewhere there may be a picture of like middle school me in like a Jaromir Jagr shirt. I know I had one.
Well, Brandon's mom, see if you can find one, because I got to tell her what she just said to her too. So.
Obviously, an explosive, great player. I had a ton of success. If you're picturing him too, you better picture him with that glorious mullet he had.
Yes.
I mean, that thing was amazing.
Yep.
But just one of the all-time greats. I mean, and I appreciate the fact that he had such a long career. I mean, he started with the Penguins in 1990, played in the NHL up until 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said he's playing, several years since in the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Like just again, one of the all-time greats. And it took a while because at some point there was a bit of a contention there because they traded him, and I think fans at the time were a little perturbed with him, just with as is often the case with people, kind of with money and stuff like that. But then over time, fans and both sides kind of cooled, and let's put it this way: the Penguins need something right now because the season's not going great for them. So this should be hopefully a really fun day.
And she deserves it too, but we've mentioned her a few times. You could go Caitlin Clark with breaking the scoring record and then dropping 49 points last night.
Kind of surprising that that's her career high.
Yeah.
For someone that averages around 30, you think she would have had like a 50 or 60 point game, but she was just always just very steadily there. I mean,
so that would be a good one, but I went with a little bit of a different direction. Let's give it up. College Football 25 EA Sports. It is official. It is coming. I'm going to be honest. You know more about that than I do. I was never, I've played it back in, the good old days when we were a little bit younger and such, but everybody's geeked up about it, excited about it. I saw the trailer drop, so I'm bringing it on as cream of the crop because it seems like a lot of people are excited about it.
And I also like that a lot of people are also keeping the perspective of like, this could suck. Yeah. We just want to see it before, we want to, because it's been 11 years. The last one was NCAA Football 14, which was an awesome game. Like, I'm very curious how it goes because I don't have a ton of confidence in EA, given, we've talked in the past what's happened with Madden, even just their sports games in general.
Yep.
But they have a chance to start fresher.
Yep.
And if they hit a home run with this, boy howdy, they will be back in the good graces of a lot of people.
They would.
And, seeing. I mean, and even in the trailer, there wasn't really a ton that was shown, like as far as gameplay goes, because that's still in development. I think they said in May there's going to be like an actual gameplay trailer.
Right.
But you're right. It was just exciting, just like okay, this is happening. Like you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Yep. So that's my cream of the crop over there. Me again, Brandon. This is from your mom. You need to go see Little Giants with your mom, she said. You need to go see it. So, Icebox, Junior Floyd,
Hot Hands,
Hot Hands, Spike, of course.
Ed O'Neill,
Rick Moranis,
Emmett Smith,
John Madden,
Steve Entman.
Yep. The guy that nobody probably recognizes when he comes off the bus. I was prepared for that. Like, if I take Hudson over there, I know he's going to say, well, who's that?
Yeah.
So,
he was a high draft pick at one point.
Yep. Bruce Smith. Was it Tim Brown? Was the other?
Could be. Yeah. I forget who the other one was. But yeah. So, the annexation of Puerto Rico.
I remember the first time I watched that. I went to a friend's house in 3rd grade on a Saturday. Watched it for the first time when it came out. So, good times. You don't see that movie on TV that much, though.
No.
You really don't. Like, it's kind of hard to track down.
Right. I know I got the DVD at one point, but
I do want to get the DVD. It's not one of those you can find in a $5 bin, though.
No, it's too good of a movie for that.
It's a cinematic classic. True underdog story. One time, right? One time. He beat Kevin down Cherry Hill. Just one time. Man, that's a movie I feel like we don't quote enough sometimes.
Let's make it our effort to quote Little Giants more.
I think we have to. And I feel like whenever we talk about some of the best ones, it always gets overlooked too, just because it
does. I mean, they were, at that time, Disney was cooking with their movies.
So Rick Moranis was at the peak, though, too.
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep. Spaceballs.
Oh, gosh. I mean, that's not a Disney movie.
But still, it's Rick Moranis, Ghostbusters. He was in there.
Yeah.
So, good old Rick.
80s into the 90s were good to Rick.
Mm-hmm. Feel like we're missing some Rick Moranis movies.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Too, but we'll think about them.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but yeah, that's a good list of movies right there.
I gotta track down a copy of Little Giant somewhere. I know you can probably get it, but it's not. I know I looked one time and it was not like, oh, $5 and it's yours sort of thing. So, all right. So coming up next hour, we will do the local sports roundup. No, it's a busy week. We had some hockey action last night. A lot of teams still moving on. We're going to know the brackets for the boys basketball on Sunday. So we'll get to that. We got girls hoops playoffs starting next week, Brandon?
Starting next week? Tuesday.
All right. So we got plenty of stuff and then wrestling. I know we got some teams going. Team State, that was clinched earlier this week. So we'll recap all that as well. Plenty of stuff to catch up on. So we'll get to that and the Carpet City Florence, our local spotlights coming at you as well. We'll get to some hoops talk. Bucks All-Star break. Not going into the All-Star break feeling good after losing to a very depleted Memphis Grizzlies team last night. College-wise, you got the Badgers in action tomorrow against Iowa, but a huge game between UConn and Marquette. 2 teams in the top 4 going at it tomorrow. 2 hours in. We got one more to go. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after these news updates. Third and final hour kicking off on this Friday morning. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. We've got the local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance coming up here in just a minute. We'll get to some hoops talk as well with the Bucks now heading into the All-Star break. Kind of looking like, we've been asked, I know it's not the first half mathematically, but kind of, first half in the books here. How would you assess this season? And if you had to use one word or maybe a couple words to describe this Buck season so far, what would those words be? And keep it maybe clean for us to say on the air over there. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit, but let's do the local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliances. Shall we start with hockey, Brandon?
Let's do it.
With postseason last night. What we had: Memorial, Chi High, Menominee, and Hudson all advancing.
Yes.
Last night. So I see Chi High put up 13 goals.
They did on
last
DC
night?
on DC Everest. Yes.
It was DC Everest who beat North, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So Tuesday night it'll be Chi High versus Memorial. Ooh. Spoiler alert, that's where I'm going to be. And another half of that section is Stevens Point and Hudson. So the top four teams, I think the teams people probably expected to kind of be the final four there.
Right.
And I kind of talked about it a little bit before when we were just talking about that section in general for D1, that whoever comes out of that section is darn sure going to earn it.
Right.
And those are four state-ranked good teams. And it's just going to come down to who plays best on that given night, because these teams have kind of beat each other a little bit.
Right.
I mean, Chippewa won both games against Memorial during the regular season. Second one, which was I believe last week, went to overtime. So I mean, Memorial's been right there, but Chippewa's playing really, really well. Especially ever since a couple early season losses to Stevens Point and University School of Milwaukee, they've kind of found that right combination. They found what works for them, and they've been hard to handle.
Right. Exactly. So from the girls' side, do we still have any local teams?
Well, two of them play tonight, actually.
Okay.
Chippewa Falls Menominee hosts Eau Claire area tonight.
Okay.
In Chippewa in the first round of the girls hockey tournament. That's actually where I'll be. So the winner of that game will get Big River champion St. Croix Valley next Tuesday. So
gotcha. Okay. So we got that still out there too. Yeah, it's a smaller bracket. I got it up now. It finally just loaded up for me. So, but so we got because we got Hayward beat Medford and Riblake, it looks like, last night. All right. Basketball. We've got let's start off with boys basketball.
Shout out to Eau Claire Memorial, clinching a share of the Big Rivers title last night with a win. They can win that outright with a win next week against Chippewa.
Okay.
That's a team we've talked about at times, kind of had to work through some injuries and stuff, but still heading into the postseason, should probably get a pretty solid seed this weekend. And looking to make a run. Last year they were part of that section that just had so many upsets in it, and I'm sure they're kind of looking to forge a run this year. And they've, even being less than 100%, they've certainly got the talent to make some noise and win some games.
Yeah. So we will know the brackets on Sunday.
That's the hope.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anything that they're still doing it on Sunday?
There is the Michigan girls bracket. They had some that were done wrong.
Oh, okay.
Apparently some teams were just forgotten about.
Oh,
which is not good.
No.
So I mean, they announced them, but like the ones that they had posted or something were wrong. There were some issues. So hopefully those are ironed out for Saturday or Sunday for the boys.
Gotcha. Okay. Some other scores: North fell to River Falls last night. Altoona defeated Amory in boys basketball. Girls basketball, we had Altoona falling just slightly to Baldwin Woodville, 32-31. So Baldwin Woodville wins the middle border.
Yeah, middle border. They're the 1 seed, and we'll talk a little bit about that for girls basketball for that D3 section. That section that includes Bloomer in it. So
okay.
At least the top half of the section. The bottom half is where you've got Elk Mound and Altoona and Aquinas and some others.
So just to kind of wrap up for boys basketball, is there any of what maybe some conference championship still up in the air, or what's maybe like Clover Belt look like
Western
right now?
Clover Belt, the Bloomers got that wrapped up. They wrapped that up last Friday. So that's taken care of. Dunn St. Croix is still, they're still battling at the top there. You got Durand, Arkansas, who's 1 game up on Elk Mountain and Spring Valley. So I mean that's a battle that's going to go down to probably to the end of next week. 3 teams within a game of each other. So and those are the 3 top teams. Durand and Spring Valley D4, Elk D3, they should be seated pretty well when it comes to the postseason as well. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, mentioned Big Rivers. Memorial's got a share. Hudson can still get a share, but needs some help to get there. Western Cloverbelt, Bloomer's got that, sealed up. So if you go down to the Dairyland, you've got Melrose Mindoro, who's up in the large, in still a pretty competitive one. So that one could still go a couple different directions there as well.
Okay.
And then the small Dairyland, you've got Cochrane Fountain City, who's having a really good year. Eau Claire Emmanuel and Alma Center Lincoln still kind of battling each other out. Cochrane Fountain City's up a game though. Cochrane Fountain City's had a good year, 14-6 overall, been getting some attention statewide as far as some rankings. Same with the Eau Claire Emmanuel at different times too. So
okay.
And Cochrane Fountain City and Eau Claire Emmanuel play tonight, so that's a big one tonight in the small Dairyland. Really, Cochrane Fountain City can kind of I believe they can clinch or put some distance on with a win.
Yeah. Should we move over to girls?
Yeah.
Basketball. We know the brackets that came out on Sunday and such. Kind of going through it. Division 1, Chi High, a 16 seed going up against Appleton West.
Correct. I believe that's like the third year in a row that those two teams have played in that opening round.
Really?
Yes. The last 2 years have been in Appleton. Appleton West has won. So
okay, this one's at Chi High.
This time the Terrors have to make the long trip.
Yeah.
Over.
And then winner of that gets the 1 seed though, Hortonville.
Yes. Polar Bears.
Yeah.
Very good.
So we got that. Then Memorial girls are 4 seed. They're going to be taking on Oshkosh North. So we got some Western Wisconsin versus Fox Valley matchups
and that's,
with this one.
In the larger, especially like D1, that's kind of how those sections pair up. Just because you're covering more ground, because there's fewer D1 schools.
Right.
So you're going to get those matchups from further away versus like in Division 4 and Division 5.
And then in the bottom end of that bracket, we got North, who's a 15 seed, taking on DC Everest. The winner of that faces a familiar team, Hudson, as the 2 seed. So
right.
Some BRC action potentially there. So that's Division 1 to Division 2. Let's go. We got Menominee as a 1 seed, where they will face the winner of Wausau East or River Falls. That would be next Friday, a week from today here. So Rice Lake's a 3 seed, where they will either face New Richmond or Medford on that one. We've got, just kind of scrolling down here a little bit more. Is that kind of it for our
Menominee clinched a share of the conference, the Big Rivers title. They can win it outright tonight if they pick up a win in River Falls.
Okay.
Enough you mentioned. Otherwise, you got Hudson Memorial both a game back. I mean, those teams all 3 teams have kind of been traded wins all throughout the year here. So
to Division 3, shall we? Baldwin Woodville's the 1 seed. They will face the winner of either Bloomer or Northwestern. In that one, St. Croix Falls is a 5. They will face potentially Ellsworth if they defeat Osceola. Spooner and Barron going at it. Spooner's 11. Barron is a 6 seed. St. Croix Central is a 7 seed going up against Amory. If they win, they will face Somerset. Elk Mount, a 1 seed, going down towards the bottom portion of this bracket. Arcadia is a 5 seed. Altoona is a 3 seed. They will take on the winner of Black River Falls and Mauston. Stanley Boyd, a 10 seed as well.
Going to Viroqua.
Viroqua,
yeah. That bottom half of that section is interesting because you got Elk Mountain, who's unbeaten, done St. Croix champs, really playing at a high level right now. You got La Crosse Aquinas, who was the runner-up in D4 last year, moving up to D3 this year. Sammy Davis, brother of Jordan and Jonathan Davis, plays for Aquinas. That's a team that's had some significant departures from last year. They figured it out. You mentioned Altoona, the 3 seed. That's a good solid team. They've had some state ranking throughout the year for Coach Michelle Poplinski. That's going to be really interesting to see who emerges from that bottom half of that section.
Yeah. Division 4, I don't know why, but it seems like Division 4 always has some unique potential matchups in this thing. So we got Fall Creek as a 1 seed. They would face the winner of Boyceville and Unity. Colfax is a 5, taking on Grantsburg. Then you got Regis as a 3. They would take on the winner of Cumberland versus Shell Lake. Durand, Arkansas is a 2. They would take on the winner of either Augusta or Mondovi. Then at the bottom, you got McDonald as a 1 seed. They would face either Ladysmith or Marathon. Abbotsford and Colby going up against each other in a 5 and 12.
Not a long travel trip for either of those teams.
And then the winner of that one doesn't have to travel for that long either because they'd face Stratford.
There you go.
Then Cameron's a 3 seed. They would face either Chequamegon or Cadott. And then you've got Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser taking on Spencer. That winner would take on Phillips. So you got some local teams there that are really highly ranked.
Yes, yeah,
in
that
bracket.
that D4 section has got a lot of good teams in it.
Fall Creek, are they kind of on a path maybe to face McDonald Central, you think?
We might get a rematch. They're going to see some good teams before them, but Fall Creek's really on a roll. You know,
Yeah.
we talked last week about them beating McDonald, but that's a team that is really, it's a younger team, but they've kind of started to figure out kind of who's what where. You're in the second half. Tomorrow night, both McDonald and Fall Creek will be in action at the Cloverbelt crossover over or down in Osseo. Fall Creek plays Owens Withy in the second place game, and then McDonald plays Neilsville in the first place game.
Okay, interesting. Did I miss Neilsville? And
they're in a different section?
Are they in a different section? Okay.
But yeah, so it's possible you can get Neilsville and one.
Oh yeah, they're right there on the other one.
Yeah,
yep.
and get one of those two teams, be it Fall Creek or McDonald to state.
Yeah, they're facing either Luther or Westby. It looks like the winner of that one. So, to Division 5, there's no buys in Division 5. It looks like.
No, there's not. There are very few of them.
Yeah, so they get going all right away on Tuesday. You've got Clear Lake as a 1 seed going up against Birchwood. I'm just kind of going to Siren versus Luck in a 5-12. New Auburn taking on Spring Valley. Turtle Lake taking on Glenwood City. Clayton, Solon Springs, Eau Claire, Emmanuel Lutheran taking on Frederick. Webster, also a 2 seed on here. Bruce is a 16. Gilman's a 9 taking on Lake Holcomb.
That's a close. Yeah, that's a nice little
hop
trip.
Skip down 64 over there. What else do we got? Cornell's a 14 seed taking on Drummond. And Thorpe, a 15, taking on Owen with a 2 seed.
Another close drive. You can choose to take 29, or you can take Highway X.
That's right. Take some of the back roads over there too. So, anything jump out to you with the Division 5 bracket?
I just think there's a lot of opportunity there. McDonald had won the section the last 3 years. So obviously that opens up with them. They're up in D4 now, so that move opens up that opportunity. I think you can make the case for a bunch of different teams, which is going to make for a really, really good section there to see how that develops.
So those games all, again, girls basketball for the postseason starts next Tuesday. So wrestling, just to kind of wrap some things up here. Wrestling, I know we had some teams clinching team states. Menominee going for the first time in school history. Medford was close, but was it St. Croix Falls or Central they fell to?
Falls. They're very good.
Yeah.
They're up in D2 now. They were in D3 the last several years, and they were always good. So great program.
Now, individuals though too also clinch spots.
Right. It can be a little bit confusing. So here, so regionals last weekend, you had regionals in that your top teams from regionals advanced to team sectionals, and your top individuals advanced to individual sectionals. So it kind of splits. And then you had Tuesday night, you had the team sectional, which Menominee defeated BC Iverson Hudson to punch their ticket to state. Now that team state is not for 2 weeks yet.
Okay.
So you still have all these wrestlers that advanced to sectionals, and for Menominee it was 12 out of the 14. So pretty much everybody going to have the chance to go for the individual state tournament, which is next weekend in Madison.
So there's potential that, for anybody who doesn't know, wrestlers could wrestle an individual and then the following week state or the team state too.
There will be, and there will be some.
Yeah.
I mean, Menominee will get some wrestlers to state individually.
Right.
So
yeah,
and a lot of other teams as well. So
the individuals hoping to make it to state. This is the weekend.
Correct. Tomorrow is go time for that, and you're also going to have girls jumping in here too, because there's no regionals for girls, but they'll be joining in for sectionals now. So it'll be a busy day on the mat.
Absolutely. So, and I know we got swimming. That's
boys swimming at state this week. Gymnastics, you got conference meets, and the Big Rivers one is tomorrow over in River Falls.
All right.
So yeah, we're getting down to it.
We are. College level here, just to kind of wrap things up here. We got swimming and diving WIAC championships going on here too. We've got for Blue Gold Gymnastics, they're going to be taking on Oshkosh. Wrestling. For Blue Gold Wrestling or WIAC Wrestling altogether, but for the Blue Golds, it begins tomorrow. WIAC Championships, their fantastic season. Tim Fader and his entire team, high expectations for this team. So, also we got indoor track and field. It's going to be at Oshkosh. Excuse me.
My gosh.
The big one though too tomorrow. We got Blue Gold women's hockey taking on number 1 River Falls. If you remember, their previous game went to overtime. Blue Golds fell on that one, but big rivalry game coming up between the Blue Golds and River Falls. Basketball wise, for the Blue Golds, if you want to catch maybe one more game at Zorn Arena, the men's team senior night takes on lacrosse tomorrow. The women's team will be taking on lacrosse there too. So stout wise, you've got just kind of looking across the board here. Stout wise, like for basketball, if you're taking a look at that, especially the women's team making a run here as of late, but they're going to be taking on Platteville, and then we got the WIAC tournament that starts next week for basketball too. So pay attention to that. I know for hockey. They've got is it Northland? Let me bring it up here. I think it's Northland. They've got Northland today and tomorrow. So that's your local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliances. All right, Brandon. The Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight. Lots to probably highlight here, but if you had to narrow it down to one, who are you rolling with?
I think we're going to go with Menominee Wrestling. First time
Good
in program
choice.
history going to state. 12 wrestlers wrestling tomorrow at sectionals. Like I said, I anticipate a good chunk of them are going to be going to individual state. I mean, that's a program that dominated Big Rivers competition, which is not easy to do, especially with teams like Hudson. That's always there.
North,
North
has got.
You've got good teams in that conference, and it's just and they've had good wrestlers over the years, but it's just obviously a team is such an you just need a top to bottom roster, and
it is difficult for a team to advance fully, isn't it?
It is like everything has to be clicking at the right time for you, and it is right now for Menominee. So they're going to go to Marshfield tomorrow, and they're going to be able to wrestling with a lot of confidence because they know, they're. I don't even know if they're necessarily going to have a ton of pressure on them because, they know they're going to team state, and that's great. And you always want to go to individual as well, but you don't necessarily have that for the seniors, oh my gosh, this could be my last match kind of a thing.
Right.
And I think that's just going to make them even better.
Right.
That is a powerhouse Mustangs program right now.
Absolutely.
Do a lot of good things.
Yeah. I mean, because I remember when I was in high school and we had great wrestlers. I mean, we had the, shout out to Crass Train.
I was going to say Crass,
Crasses, but, we had, Higgins, Gangler. I'm going to miss a bunch of them. And they made it finally to team state the senior year. I mean, it was a solid, really good, but it's hard to get everybody.
You can't really have any weak links because it's team scoring, and one of the things one of the things I learned about wrestling, the big way that you win, duels, is you don't get pinned, and that was something I noticed with Menominee Tuesday night. Is they did a really good job because if you get pinned, the other team gets 6 points, but if it's a decision, it's 3 points, and that adds up. If you look at any college wrestling, you'll see why the score is always 20-18. There's not a ton of pins because you don't have a lot of usually everyone just has a bunch of really good wrestlers.
Right. Yep. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick break. Let Brandon regroup here a little bit, catch his breath. We'll be back with more. Let's talk some hoops after these quick words. We know Mike's Star Market is your go-to place for quality and flavor when it comes to brats, steaks, burgers, and chicken. And Mike's is also your go-to place when it comes to snack sticks, jerky, and now freeze-dried candy. There's so many different flavors of freeze-dried candy that you seriously will want to try them all. Whenever you walk into Mike's Star Market, you're likely to find something new to try. It's almost like you're on a scavenger hunt when you head on over to Mike's Star Market. So whether you're looking for something to make for dinner or to stock up on some different snacks, head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. All right, bottom of the hour here. Only got a half an hour to go here, Brandon. 30 more minutes here, man. You can do it. You can do it. Bucks falling last night to a depleted Memphis Grizzlies team. Now it's the All-Star break. If you could describe, you wordsman, you one or maybe in a couple words, this Bucks season thus far, how would you describe it?
Disjointed.
I gotta turn your wrong mic up.
I don't want to talk now. My mic's not even on. Yeah. I would say disjointed.
Yeah.
Disjointed from the fact that they hired a coach and then quickly found out that that was not the coach for them. Disjointed in that from one game to the next, this team kind of is all over the place.
Yep.
Disjointed in that it's still kind of trying to seek the right combination. You're just kind of what's the rotations are going to look like and all that. Like,
right.
I think this All-Star break comes at a good time. And hopefully they can kind of take the week off. You know, obviously, a couple of guys will be in action this weekend, but
and Doc,
yeah, and be and come back ready to go for next Friday.
And Bucks have the third, I believe it was the third toughest schedule remaining now. And when you look at it, if my math was correct, which I know it gets sketchy a lot, but I manually counted according to that schedule we have right there. Of the games remaining right now, based off current standings, only 5 teams they play, and there's a couple of them they play a couple times here. 5 of these games are against non-playoff teams. And you look at this stretch here, I'll highlight the one in March coming up. Clippers, Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, Sacramento, Philly, Phoenix, Boston. Then you got a quick game against Brooklyn. Then it's OKC and the Lakers. That's pretty much your whole month of March mixed in there. And the only teams that right now are not in the postseason, based off who they have left to play, is Charlotte, who they play twice, Washington, Toronto, and there was another one on there that I just can't see off the top of my head right now. But anyways, you get the Washington, Toronto. Well, I'll figure it out later. Maybe it was only 4, but you know me and math. Anyways, that they play a lot of postseason teams, playoff teams coming up here, Brandon. So, do you trust them that they can figure this out?
For now. Talk to me in a month and we'll see. But I mean, there's some questions. Like, they're going to add Dario Gallinari, who will help him in the front court. But there's some questions because, there's just this team it doesn't seem like as of yet it's kind of found itself.
Right. New Orleans is Brooklyn was it's 5. I counted it again. So, which team do you trust the most right now, Badgers or Bucks?
I would still say Bucks.
Really?
Because they do have Giannis.
Yeah. He put up 35 and like 12 assists last
night. The issues they've had, I don't know if Giannis has necessarily been the problem. He's played really well.
Yeah.
It's kind of everything around it.
Like, what is the issue with this Bucks team? I mean, you got Giannis doing his thing. Dame 24 and 7 last night. Is it bench production? Bobby Portis had 15 come off the bench, and that was pretty much it. Does this team really miss Chris Middleton? I don't know if it's one big thing. I think it's kind of frustrating for a lot of Bucks fans because you look at this, you're like, how? Why? How is this possible with this group?
Right. I think that's that you hit the nail on the head. That's the thing that's so frustrating is it's not just one thing. If you could just say, oh well, they just need they just need to play better defense. Well, they do, but it's not as simple as just that.
Right. And I know a little bit of it is you got to give Memphis credit because last night they shot 50% from 3. They shot 53% overall from the field, even though they were missing a boatload of their guys. And it's one of those, we see it how many times, Brandon, you got a young team. There's guys starting a game that are on 10-day contracts for crying out loud. But how many times have we see it where you got these young guys on a poor team saying, screw it, we're just going to go out there and ball, try to make an impression. And that's exactly what Memphis did last night. Doc kind of called out his team, though, afterwards and saying some guys were here and some were already in Cabo. And, I don't know exactly who he was kind of referring to, but, you mentioned Gallinari. I mean, how big of a difference is he going to make, though, too?
I'm not sure. That's going to be a question because you knew with the way the trade deadline went that they're going to be able to add somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
And, because it seems like Doc plays a shorter bench right now. That's kind of where he's at this point, is he's playing a shorter bench. So, I'm looking at the minutes even from last night. Andre Jackson Jr., you could tell his minutes have been cut 3 minutes. He's been given more minutes to AJ Green, kind of being a 3-point guy. Patrick Beverly, 14 minutes last night. Portis, 25. And then when you factor in Middleton does come back, that means Jay Crowder is going back to the bench. So it's like, where are all these minutes going to be coming from? I don't know at this point. And then the Bucks last night, they shoot a miserable 25% from three. I mean, you shoot it 44 times and you make 11 out of the 44. That's
not good.
ugly. That's bad.
UGLY, they ain't got no alibi.
Is this still? I mean, I don't feel like this is a team that's going to win a championship this year, unless they get on a hot streak.
Say they got to figure some things out.
They got to figure out the momentum part of it. You look at the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, so you want to talk about two kind of different stories going on here. So Boston is just in complete control of the Eastern Conference. They're up 8 games on the second place Cleveland Cavaliers, or 6 games, excuse me. They're up 8.5 on the Bucks, who's in third. Knicks are in 4th. They're 10 games ahead of the Knicks. Okay, to put it in perspective of the Western Conference, Denver, who's just 3 games back from Minnesota in first place. It's almost giving you shades of old school Eastern Conference, Western Conferences, because you got to add in the top 10 now because of the play-in. But the 9 and 10 teams in the Eastern Conference are all under 500. Whereas the Western Conference, the 9 and 10 teams are above 500. Gives you shades going back to before there. But you're talking the Pelicans, who are in a 6th seed, are just 6 games back from first place. Indiana's a 6th seed. They're 12.5 back from Boston. I mean, this Western Conference thing, it was at the beginning of the week we were looking at it when, it was when Milwaukee was playing Denver and Minnesota was playing the Clippers. Minnesota had a half-game lead over, like, all of them. Now it's like Minnesota is 1.5 up on OKC. Clippers are now 2 back. Denver's now 3 back, for crying out loud. I mean, it's going to fluctuate throughout the entire season at this point. Now, considering the Western Conference is, would you say, a little bit more deeper than the Eastern Conference at this point?
Yeah.
If you had to put a futures bet on it, who do you think has the better shot to get to the finals, Timberwolves or Bucks?
I mean, I think the Timberwolves are playing better right now, but they have more they have to go through.
Right.
So I may still say the Bucks if they figure it out, but the Timberwolves are far and away playing much better than the Bucks right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd have to think about that one a little bit. I don't know where I would go with that one, to be honest with you. I see what you're saying with it's just I don't know. There's something about this Bucks team that's just, Greg Anthony mentioned something about Damian Lillard last night. He said, starting to look more comfortable in the Bucks uniform. And I'm like, dude, it's middle of February. If he's not comfortable yet, what's going on here then?
Right.
And I get it. You're reset because of a new coach coming in and all that. But still, you're talking middle of February. You better be comfortable by this point in time. So, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll do some picks and predicts coming up here in just a little bit. Picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Last break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Believe it or not, baseball season is around the corner here. We got spring training going on, right? Pitchers and catchers and such. Players are getting ready for another long baseball season this summer, but spring training doesn't just have to be for baseball players. It can be for you as well. Tired of those aches and pains that you've been holding off on going to see someone for help for? Not anymore. Spring on into Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start your spring training so you're ready for an awesome summer. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you will receive surpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So get ready to get back in the game. Make your appointment by visiting cvosm.com. All right, it is time to do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Hey, NASCAR fans, if you're looking for somewhere to catch the race or even get involved in some weekly picks with the races, head on down to the Elbow Room located right next to Banbury Place. Grab yourself some man cave lights over there. And starting this week, we've got with Daytona and such, they'll do some picks throughout the entire race season. So head on down there if you're looking to catch the race or make some weekly picks. With that, we'll include the Daytona in our picks. How about that, Brandon? So,
There we go.
I want to start off with that one right away.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Who are you rolling with?
I'm going to pick someone that's won pretty much everything but Daytona. I think it's his year. I'm going to go Kyle Busch.
Ooh, okay. I'll go Chase Elliott. And I have no idea if that's right or not. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's not a bad pick.
Okay. I'll tell you what I did. I looked up the odds.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I went with the odds over there. So let's go to college hoops. We got some good ones. A couple of really good ones. Wisconsin, Iowa. Wisconsin visiting Iowa. There's no line yet on this one, it looks like. But Iowa averaging 83.5 points per game this year. However, they've also been giving up 78 points per game this year. Wisconsin finally off that 4-game losing streak. Can they put one more together and say, to quote Lou Brown, that's called a winning streak? Go on a 2-game winning streak here.
I say they will.
Okay.
I think it's ugly. I think even as ugly as that game Tuesday night was, being able to close it out was big.
Yeah.
Kind of got back to seeing some of the things that they were able to do, when they were winning a lot. I think they go to Iowa and they grab a win.
Okay.
How about you?
I agree with you. I think it's going to be ugly. It's going to be like, what are we doing sort of thing, but they squeak out that victory.
Question for you.
No.
Okay. I was going to say, do we get a Fran McCaffrey Frantrum?
Yes.
0.5 technicals for Fran.
Over. I'll go over. Gets 1. Yep. Why not? Got it. It's a tradition, right? Let's go Marquette at UConn. Marquette's the 4th team in the country, taking on the defending champs and the number 1 team in the country, the UConn Huskies, who are 13-1 in conference play, 23-2 overall this year.
It's a good thing this game wasn't about 3 weeks ago, because then I would say there's no way I'm picking Marquette because they had that stretch where they really struggled, but it seems like they've come out on the other side. And I'm going to go with Marquette.
Ooh.
I'm going to say that Shaka Smart gets the signature win so far for his tenure at Marquette. On the road in Connecticut.
All right, man. No, I'm going UConn. Possibly Marquette when they face each other later this season when it's in Milwaukee, when we revisit that pick. I'll go UConn, though, with this one. Let's do some NBA All-Star picks, huh? Shall we? Yeah. All right, 3-point contest. I don't know if you know who's all in it, but I got the list here for you. There are 2 Bucks players in this 3-point contest. Malik Beasley, Damian Lillard. Then we got Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Karl Anthony Towns, Donovan Mitchell, Markanian from Utah. Who you rolling with?
You may not think his name belongs, but if you look at the numbers this year, one of those Bucks might belong a little bit more than the other. It's not the one you think.
Brooke?
No, I mean, of the 2 that are in it, the one that makes definitely would be Beasley.
Yeah.
Because his numbers are great. I'm actually going to go with Malik Beasley.
Okay. You're going to go with
He's
him?
been shooting lights out.
I'm going to go Mitchell. I'll go Donovan Mitchell for my pick here. We move to the skills competition. I don't know if I like this format, but I get it. So it's Team Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and Miles Turner versus Team Top Picks, which is Banchero, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, rookie, second year guys, top picks from the last 3 years or so. And then team all-stars, Scotty Barnes, Tyrese Maxey, Trae Young.
I'm going to go All-Stars.
You're going to go with the all-stars?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Team Pacers. I think Victor is just a little too tall right now. I don't know.
A little too giraffe-like.
Yes.
Give him another year or two, and ooh.
Yeah. I'll go with the hometown Team Pacers. How about the Steph Curry versus Sabrina Lanis? Oh, I can never say her last name. I don't. You know who I'm talking about from the New York Liberty. Sabrina. I can say it in my head. I just can't say it out loud. Anyways, who you rolling with? I apologize.
Steph.
Yeah, I'm going to go Steph too. Let's go.
Just think, though, we could be a few years away from this being Steph versus Caitlin Clark.
Could be.
Sign me up.
The slam dunk competition is back. How many times will Reggie Miller say that in the slam dunk competition? Jaylen Brown from the Celtics, Max McClung, Jacob Toppin, Jaime Jaquez Jr.
I am going with the Milwaukee Brewers connection. Seth McClung's nephew, Mac McClung, and that's actually a thing.
I know.
He's thrown some down before. Give me Mac.
I'll go with that too. How about that? Why not? And then the East versus the West. Back to traditional East versus West. Who are you rolling with?
West.
Oh, that was a quick one.
That was a quick one. I'm going to go West.
East.
Ooh.
And who's the MVP?
Anthony Edwards.
You're going to Anthony Edwards. You know who I'm going to roll? I'm going to go Damian Lillard. Because this is the game that fits him, just chucking it up all over the place. So why not? I'll go Damian Lillard. Although I don't think he's going to play a lot of minutes, to be honest with you, with Doc coaching it. I would be surprised. So I can't get into Hudson wants to watch it. I've gotten better at this. I will say this. Because I did watch the Pro Bowl flag football game.
Did you? How was it?
It actually wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But I've gotten wiser throughout my years and realized it's not for me. It's for the younger crowd. Hudson loved it. He wants to watch this for as much as he can before he has to go to bed. He's all geeked up about it. And then I remember as a kid getting geeked up about the All-Star games, Pro Bowls when they would actually have a Pro Bowl game. I've gotten better at just realizing it's not for me, it's for the younger.
We need to bring back the NFL quarterback club competition.
Yeah. I keep seeing those clips right when it's like playoffs and it's like on Facebook.
It was like I just see one before. I think it was 98. It was around then, but it was the long throw contest where Favre won with 74 yards. He just beat out Bledsoe and Cordell Stewart.
Yeah. There was one year where it was like Jeff Garcia was in there, I think, and Harbaugh was in it one year.
I know Vinny Testaverde was in it once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one guy, it might have been Harbaugh, where he's like was one of the lowest yardage ones over there. Which, I'd agree with that. I don't mind that stuff.
And that's it. Like that's what the part of the Pro Bowl I don't mind when they move to kind of like that, like Thursday night or whatever. They do all the random skill stuff. That's fine. Like that, I would rather see that than what the actual Pro Bowl game became.
I actually didn't mind the kickers doing the TikTok or tic-tac-toe over there. I'm like, okay, that's kind of put a little horse action on it, like try to make this type of kick, stuff like that. I don't mind. Show off the skills that way.
Yeah, show how talented these athletes are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Instead of just like kicking a field goal sort of thing. So yeah, the game itself, I didn't mind it. It was a flag football game for crying out loud,
right?
And again, just got to keep reminding it's for the kid, it's for the younger crowd, and that's who it was for, and he loved it. So, and I don't think you're going to see. I mean, I think the whole thing, they got to get this better, they got to improve this. I think you just got to think of it from a kid's mindset,
and that's not coming back. Like, let's put it this way: they were doing it that way, and players weren't playing.
Right?
Like, why change it to go that way when how many players were like, "Oh, I'm injured, I can't do it." Okay, how many of them were legit?
One thing I would love to see, I doubt it would ever happen. Can we get, because no offense, but for the last couple of years now, we've had backup quarterbacks in this thing.
Yeah.
And I know they've played a lot in the season. Gardner Minshew, getting in there and whatever, but Tyler Huntley the year before. One way to maybe combat that, you'd have to cut down the picks. Can we one year maybe get a Legends versus current?
That'd be fun.
right?
Sprinkle a couple.
I'm sure Peyton would play in it, throwing
Eli?
to Reggie Wayne or Andre Johnson still. It's like football. I mean, for crying out loud, you're not suiting up and taking hits. Darryl Green probably still runs a 4.40 for crying out loud. Big offense. You don't need an offensive lineman out there other than just to snap the ball, and then they sit there.
Want Jeff Sarah to make his comeback?
Yeah, exactly.
Packers legend?
Joe Thomas could go out there and snap the ball.
People would be wondering who that kicker is, though, because he's dropped a bunch of LBs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I like
let's get a Legends one going on here.
Yeah, or at least get some more legends involved, and then you can kind of rotate that every year a little bit.
Guarantee you Ray Lewis would play. He ain't going to coach defensive coordinator over there for Peyton.
Somebody throw some bombs to Randy Moss.
Yeah, exactly. Throw him out there. Charles Woodson and such. So let's do that. So, but I'd be all about that. I'd like that. All right. Where are you going to be at tonight?
I am going to be in Chippewa at the Ice Arena for girls hockey. Chippewa Falls Menominee taking on Eau Claire area.
And the winner of that, did you say plays
St. Croix Valley.
St. Croix Valley.
That'll be next Tuesday in the sectional semis.
All right. So you catch Brandon over there. I know I got a couple photos over the weekend. People scoping you out at wrestling.
Hudson's got a pretty good setup.
You're a celeb, man. You gotta be careful out there, okay? You don't know who's creeping around the corner and then snapping your photo and such. So
I can't walk around with my finger in my nose?
No, don't do that anymore. So
okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, please stop. So got a couple people that sent me photos over there. So you're a popular dude. Popular dude, man.
It's a fun day.
Yeah. What else do we got on the docket here? So we talked obviously some hoops. All-Star game now. We won't see Bucks back in action for the regular season until a week from today when they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Golf is going on right now. We got Tiger shot a 1-over yesterday. Back spasms now apparently for that shank that he had on the final hole. Son of a gun. The end is near. I started to get my hopes up when I read his clip about I'm going to play a tournament a month. Ugh. Just don't play until majors.
Everyone's looking for like the Renaissance. 2019 was a Renaissance.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for it, dude. I still have a glimmer of hope, but
golf's waiting for it.
You know
the PGA right now would love to have that.
Can we just make sure he doesn't play any tournament, just plays the majors, so he doesn't have back spasms on a tournament that doesn't matter. He ain't gonna win anymore. He needs to go to a lower level tournament where the Schefflers are not at, the Roys don't go to. Win that one so you break the tie with Snead and then call it a career.
I don't think they have anymore, but the Greater Milwaukee Open.
Yeah,
Rory won his first one.
Yeah. Can we just bring it back for you?
Bring him to the 3M.
If he went there, I would go there. I have not seen Tiger play in person.
Yeah.
And I know he's not in his prime, but I would still go at a heartbeat for that. Brandon, we did this the other day, but we got a couple minutes left and I got to fill in here. So it was on Valentine's Day we did this. Your biggest heartbreak in your sports fandom career?
Badgers basketball losing to Duke.
That's the most popular one.
Yep. I said I'm a bigger Brewers fan. I'm a bigger Vikings fan, but that one hurt more because I think everyone at the time knew like that was it. That was the chance.
Yep.
And for them to be up like they were in the second half and then give it up and then just the way the game ended, it's no question.
Yep. Honestly, that is the most popular one. Most popular one. Who was your biggest crush as a kid in terms of like your favorite athlete when you were younger? Like whose poster did you have up?
I mean, I like Barry Sanders, Randy Moss. I mentioned Jaromir Jagr. He's going to be up there.
Yeah.
I was a Dale Earnhardt fan.
Please tell me you had like a John Jaha poster or something.
I don't think I did. I don't think I had a ton of Brewer stuff when I was like younger.
Mm-hmm.
That happened, I think, more when I got into high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a nice Dave Nielsen, whatever the 90s equivalent of a fathead was.
I got to see him play. Yeah, okay. Because you had to have had a Brewer one, wasn't it? I mean, go to, or were you more just the team? I mean, come on. I
think that
I remember getting pumped up. Was it Grissom that got over in center field?
Yeah, I like the guys I liked from like that mid to late 90s were Mark Loretta and Jeff Cirillo.
No Cal Eldred.
That was good.
Yeah.
But it was Loretta and Cirillo.
Okay. That's solid. That's solid. So Shaq was mine. And it was just perfect timing too with the it is still, I will admit, it is weird to have his number retired being the first one.
Yeah. But like, who else would they retire? Like,
probably Nick Anderson.
just
First
for the
draft
long,
pick.
yeah,
And, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if you could do Penny anyways because Trace McGrady wore one.
yeah.
So I don't know how they would do that one.
Wait, you do Dwight? I don't know.
I think they might have just been desperate to like get a number up there.
Probably. Tree Rollins.
I still say they got to do the half for Lil Penny. All right, feel better, man. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll be back Monday morning.